Well, it's quite obvious that Trump is a man of his word. As soon as he got into office, he's already on a fast track for implementing many of the policies he said he would during the campaign. Now, that does quite surprise me that he's acted so fast, and which is great because whether you agree with him or not, even people that don't agree with him are respecting him for this for the most part. Um, he's got the relief for the affordable health care. He's back in getting us out of this Trans-Pacific Partnership, negotiating other deals like with NAFTA trade agreement arrangements. He's gave our troops a good raise, a really good pay raise. A lot of things, and he's been enforcing the immigration policy, and even some of the immigrants said some things that, like CNN, didn't want them to say, like that they liked Trump, even though they were being. One of them said that on air, which was kind of surprising that they liked Trump, even though, and they liked America. They just realized they have to, obey by these rules right now until things get sorted out and better procedures are established, which is great. Now, one thing I want to mention here, because we do recognize now, I do recognize. Now, let me put it to you this way: I'm a person that's been around, not that I've been around Trump or somebody in his caliber, but I've been around some of the shrewdest people in the world. I mean, at least in the region, and what they say on the surface is very rarely what they really will do. Everything's about money and power. It's surprising that Trump is somebody in their league and above the league of what people I know, that he is this honest. That I'm finding, very, surprising. So that's great, though. That's a pleasant surprise. But I also want to point out that for him to survive, he actually has to, vanquish his enemies. Now you could compare. I don't know what Trump could be. I don't know if this is a good analogy, but say, let's take an extreme analogy. Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar. This is a depiction of Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar conquered pretty much the then known world. The Senate was astonished with his, his military prowess, and he was the first Roman emperor per se, right? Then after it was Caius Octavius Augustus and Tiberius and Caligula, I think, or whatever was after that. So now, what I'm talking about here is that Trump is not a Julius Caesar, okay? But even a Julius Caesar was betrayed by his enemies because they're always out there in the woodwork, and Trump is surrounded by a bunch of, I don't know how you say this, ass kissing and yes people. I'm sure I'm sure he's not stupid. I'm sure he's very bright, but being in a den of vipers in Washington D.C. is one of the biggest problems he's going to have. And then, like, I don't want to say that he really needs to. It's me saying it's so easy for me to say this in my armchair because I'm not in this position, but I'm seeing this as an outsider. He needs to vanquish his enemies. I mean, just vanquish them. There's people high up in our government, without naming names, and I'm not saying this is about political Democrat versus Republican, but there is overload of documented evidence that there are very, very high up people in government, including former presidents, that were flat out treasonous to this nation. It wasn't a matter of having a different ideology or belonging to a different political party. They were flat out treasonous to this country. Actually, the term felon really applies to people who commit treason. And, today they freaking make it sound like, they apply it to people who jaywalk or something on Washington, D.C. street because it's owned by the District of Columbia. But I'm just kidding about that. But you know what I mean. They apply it to everything. But actually, these people like Hillary Clinton, forget it. The Clintons, they're treasonous all the way. Um, I'm showing a little map here of the ancient Roman Empire and the extent of its borders. Actually, went a little further than this, but I have to also remark that the United States has also overextended itself in its military. And that's something else he's probably going to have to pull back on. But my way of thinking is, and this is one of the reasons I opened up this other channel. I didn't really get going on it that much. American Russian survival, and actually, it's not a matter of bringing the elite together, because I'm not much on the elitists, but I think the only way we can actually have a real global power today that would be a stabilizing force and a beacon of light of freedom is to combine Russia and the United States in like a loose confederation without much central control. And believe it or not, you might not believe this because of the Hollywood depictions and images you got from Rome and what's in the movies, but Rome actually was very, very, very laissez-faire on how different territories are ruled. Sure, Rome would come in there and conquer everything, but they didn't really give a damn about what the people wanted to do, how they wanted to conduct business, how their cultures how their cultures were. It was really as long as they paid their taxes, and as long as the Roman Empire was going along fairly smoothly, and taxes weren't that bad. Well, they generally weren't bad, but sometimes they were bad. I mean, a great Jewish revolt of, I think, 69, 70 A.D., that was really what it was about more than anything. It was over taxes. So, being not just, there was other things too, but it was mainly over taxes too. But usually, for the most part, and I'm not pro-taxation here now, but I'm just trying to say it's like if we have a model based upon the Roman Empire, more or less, but more like the Roman Republic, let me say, of the United States and Russia combined with very much laissez-faire capitalism, a loose confederation, and low taxes, not much of the taxes going into the central government, it wouldn't be a bad idea, to tell you the truth, because what I'm looking at here is the United States does have to pull back a lot of its military because it's going broke rapidly, having too many overseas deployments, too many overseas bases, and we also have to cut back a lot of the social welfare programs. Not to say they're not in the needy, but there's a lot of wasteful spending going on in there, and a lot of wasteful spending going on in the government, and a lot of people are entrenched in these rackets, and they are going to fight back against Trump tooth and nail. So he really needs to vanquish his, and me just saying this from my armchair makes it sound, I think he maybe realizes this. It's a tough job. He's surrounded by, I know he knows his people, but then Washington, to drain the swamp, he went in the swamp, and now he's surrounded by the den of vipers, the advisors, and everything else that's entrenched in Washington, D.C. More or less the swamp is going to probably try to drain him. So it's not even a matter of debate who's right and who's wrong. It's a matter of, we already know who our enemies are in the United States. A lot of these people that are treasonous have been held even the highest office of this nation. And there's only really one penalty for treason. It really is. The major media is, I know, biased, you could say that, but it's more than biased. It's a tool of the financial power. And I'm not really sure how you could break all this financial power. I mean, yes, you could probably just buy silver and we'll break the financial power. Maybe that, to tell you the truth, if everybody really went balls to the wall, if you want to call it that way, and just took their money out of banks and invested their money in real assets and stay the hell away from the financial system completely, yeah, I guess that would break the power. The problem is, you'd be lucky if you got 1/10 of 1% of the people doing that. It's sort of like if you have a battalion and you tell them to take the hill, and you're lucky that a fire team is the only ones that got the balls to do it, they're going to get pushed off that hill pretty quick because there's not enough of them to do the job. And, the theories are out there, correct, but the vast majority of people just go along to get along because what's the easiest route to take? With Trump, though, I mean, one of the things I'm really scared of, like, bothers me is that a lot of people that voted for Trump think, let's send this guy to Washington to straighten everything out, which he is. He is. But, there's a flip side of that. Anybody, the office that he's in has got so much power that it could have just as easily been somebody that would entrench that power even more. I think the only way to really straighten America out is it's probably going to be through government default. I mean, I don't want to say that as a doom and gloom thing or a bad thing. I personally would like to see this. I don't give a damn if the government goes broke. Fine, as long as the private sector and the American people that work and are strong and hardy and righteous and give to people on their own accord with that are needy, all that works out fine. I'm not like a doom and gloomer, like these people, the sky is falling, because I do review a lot of that, what's being said about, the Trump presidency all early on. But one thing I really have to make a point with is that he does really need to vanquish his enemies, or we're going to be looking back at, the ruins of America, because his enemies, if they're still around, they're going to screw him up. And one thing I did take big note of is that in Eastern Europe and Russia, there was overwhelming support for Trump. Now, I know Russia is trying to take over Eastern Europe a little with Putin and stuff, because he wants to restore, the Russian greatness and stuff. And I know there's all kinds of junk going on. But I'm aware of all this. But I have to tell you that I think the best thing in the world would be that if the United States and Russia got together as a stabilizing force in the world, and that would really bring about world peace. Because I think the one area, well, I don't want to say it's religion, because radical Islam is a political movement, and YouTube is probably going to go ballistic on that because they don't like it. You know what I'm saying? There's an aspect of Islam that's very much a political movement versus a religious, I worship Muhammad and all this, but you know what I mean? There's different aspects to it. And, Putin has been on board with that, going after the Chechen rebels and whatever from day one, right? So if the United States, under Trump, works together with Putin very well, some of the biggest world's problems could be solved, no problem. I think Obama was horrible. I mean, he really was. But to tell you the truth, Obama looks like a great guy compared to Hillary Clinton. That's my personal opinion. Okay? I'm so glad that she didn't. She didn't win despite the best efforts of all the cheating they pulled in election fraud and rigging. I'm so glad she didn't win. And I'm so glad that Trump is turning out to really be a man of his word. I'm surprised he did so much so fast so already. But I'm a little worried that he's in I think he's always been in major danger. But now that people realize it's really out there like a neon billboard, this guy is for real. I mean, I always liked what he was saying the last couple of years, but I don't know what the heck. You don't know. These people tell you a lot of wonderful things, and then they flip and change your mind, especially when they got a lot of money. Those kind of people are the most untrustworthy people going, but it looks like Trump is really, really, really legit. At least if you don't like what he's doing, at least you could say he's doing what he said he's going to do, which is far more than any politician I ever seen, except for JFK maybe. But I think Trump's already exceeding him. So he's got his enemies. And, I keep comparing it to, I don't think Trump's a Julius Caesar. And look what happened to Julius Caesar, right? So, I mean, it's food for thought. So, the one thing is, I wish the best for Trump, and I would support him. And honestly, if Hillary won, I wouldn't be supporting her. I mean, whether she's president or not, because I think she's flat out treasonous. It's not a matter if she's a Democrat. There was Democrats I could have went with. Maybe like, well, Jim Webb, I would have probably voted for him over Trump. But she was like, she's flat out treasonous. She's horrible. She's just in there for freaking whatever, how much money I could pour into the coffers of the Clinton Foundation. Doesn't care about nothing except that she's a freaking psychomaniac, narcissistic nutcase, man. Anyway, but the problem is, if these people are still around after all they did against the United States, they're going to be working against this guy behind the scenes all the time till they find a weak point, till they find a way in, till they can find a way in somewhere where they can get at him. So, and the problem is, if you go after these people for treason, which fits all the way, which they fit the bill for treason, Hillary Clinton, for no doubt about it, with the Clinton Foundation. That's freaking flat out bribery to, the head of the State Department. I mean, what the hell, what else could you really call this, But if you go after her, you know what the major media is going to be doing? Oh, this is all political, and it's like, it's like what they do in a banana republic when the one guy wins and they vanquish the other one. Tell you the truth, man. I just hope the American people stop listening to all these major media Mongols, whatever the hell you call them, and just get the hell away from it completely. And it's one of the reasons I have to put out some of these political things every once in a while, because, and I haven't been putting them out as much. I was putting out more of them during the election, which I'm sure the powers even behind Google don't like, But honestly, even these people that are on high up in the corporations that don't like Trump, they can't see really what's going on exactly. And because they're up in their ivory towers, they do not understand that actually they're painting in themselves, not just in a corner, but they're sowing the seeds of their own demise. These people are so much entrenched in their daily lives and what their daily surroundings are, they don't notice really what's going on in the long-term trends. They think they got it figured out because they're smart people. But honestly, I could tell you this. I've read a lot about ancient Rome, and I could tell you there's been a lot of smart people in ancient Rome that didn't last too long, especially as emperors, because they thought they had it figured out until somebody betrayed them. But this is also going to happen not only to, this is not going to only happen politically, but this can also happen to the corporate CEOs that are like dissatisfied with Trump right now. These guys don't get it, man, because actually Trump is going to be doing them a major favor if he keeps America going strong longer. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that, though, to tell you the truth. I think the writing's on the wall for America, and it's not just because of the debt situation and a lot of the, the import-export situation, but also, I said this before, but of course for the global cooling situation through the new mini ice age that's coming down the pike here, which is also going to greatly affect, crop output and put a big strain on the everyday net disposable income of the average consumer. As a matter of fact, it could be very much argued why Roman Empire fell for another reason. It was the global mini ice age at that time, because there's things that happen every 200 years, 400 years, and it caused barbaric invasions to come into their territory when they're weak, and everybody was weak because of lack of, long productive growing season. So what happened there, that sped up the demise of the Roman Empire. But I think that, the other part of it is Washington, D.C. is very much like ancient Rome in a lot of ways, in that it's, in a lot of ways, the United States is a lot like ancient Rome. And unfortunately, we've probably gone over the edge quite a while ago towards empire from a constitutional republic in actually the way things are done. Because actually, the only way Trump is reversing a lot of this stuff that Obama did is through executive order. And I'm thinking, well, for crying out loud, I mean, we're supposed to have, that's what the legislature's for, right? I mean, he's doing the right thing, but in principle, the president's position should have never been able to have the power to make an executive order like what was being done during the Obama administration and administrations before him under like George Bush. So, it's being undone. It's being undone by executive order. But the point is that the executive branch is not supposed to have that type of power. It's supposed to belong into the legislative branch, which already hints at very strongly that we already are pretty much an empire. Although I don't want to say that because that's being a little bit too negative to think that. But the reality is, the presidency has gotten too damn strong. Now, hopefully, when Trump is saying he's giving the power back to the people, that not only does he make his efforts, but we make all our efforts. Because once we grab something and we have this power, again, hold on to it for dear life. Because one of the things even the Founding Fathers talked about, it's very difficult. It requires eternal vigilance to keep a constitutional republic. It's not something that's just automatic pilot and press a button and not have to think. No, that's democracy. If we don't have a democracy, we have a constitutional republic. Or socialism, actually, if you want to really call it that, whereby you don't have to think and you just are a cog in a wheel. If you're going to be in a true constitutional republic, you're going to have to be independent-minded, and you also have to be independent economically, whereby you can self-sustain yourself, where you don't need the government to keep you going. And also, well, back in the ancient Rome, one of the things that was the hallmark of the strength of the Roman Republic was the citizen soldier farmer. So the farmer tilled the soil himself, built his own house, grew his own crops. He was a citizen of Rome, and then he bore arms to fight the enemies of Rome. Ideally, that's the way we should have it today. Not even have so much of a standing army where we got to pay people and all this kind of garbage. And we actually are volunteers. It'd be better to have more volunteers. And the high-tech weapon could be done by the paid professional army, whereby the volunteers couldn't be doing that because it requires maybe so many years of experience to know the high-tech weapons. It doesn't take a hell of a lot to freaking know how to use a rifle, though. That's the thing. So anyway, I just want to say that Trump is, it's easy for me to say from here, from the armchair thing, but I just have to tell you, it's a valid observation. He's probably not going. He's probably really going to have to freaking vanquish his enemies and bring them out as treasonous and charge them with treason, charge them with being traitors, treasonous to this nation, or else he's going to be waiting around for a long period of time for them to finally find a weak point to get at him, and they will. Their time. They could wait all the time in the world, but if you totally destroy your enemies, you're not going to have a problem with this for many decades. So, it'll be a problem that'll resurface sometime in the future, but right now, the forces that are on the side of righteousness are in power. And like I said, whether you agree with Trump or not, he's the first damn politician I've ever seen that made all these really strong political promises and then acted upon them within the first week of office. I've never heard of this. It's amazing. Now, some people say, well, I'm finally opening up and waking up to the light. Well, maybe you're not opening up to the light, because I never seen anybody that's even like a multimillionaire in business be like this. They're usually chameleons. They tell you what the hell they want. You want to hear. They don't. They go after the money first. And anybody who's got a lot of money, it's usually that's how they think. So he's a whole nother breed all the way. But I think that he's shown himself to be true blue to the United States all the way. The only way he's going to really be able to survive in there long term, he has to vanquish his enemies. His enemies are the enemies against the United States, and these enemies are not political enemies. They're treasonous, traitorous enemies. They're people that were out to destroy the United States, and there's ample, overwhelming proof for decades that that's what these people were doing. Deliberately, maliciously, consciously, whatever way you want to put it. And it's not even a matter of, beyond a reasonable doubt. It's like, it's umpteen times beyond a reasonable doubt. So these people that need to be vanquished, they deserve it all the way. So, and if that happens, America will probably be strong for a very long time. And I still recommend highly that we get together somehow loosely with Russia, the Russian Federation, as I don't know, like a global loose confederation or confederacy or whatever you want to call it, where each region and state has a lot of power unto themselves, but the centralized government doesn't have a lot of power, because I think between the United States and Russia, we'd be a very much stabilizing force in the world. And I know maybe it wouldn't be perfect, but it'd be a lot better than what's going on right now today, because if you look at what's going on today, we got so many different hotspots cropping up in the world. A lot of it is from this politicized extreme radical Islamic movements. And I know people would all comment why that was financed and who did it and all that. I know. But, I'm not buying into all that stuff, to tell you the truth, because there's a lot of conspiracy rumors out there on the YouTube that aren't really true. And I just have to say that that type of globalism would be okay, if you want to use the word globalism. Because when we get together under the right types of principles and say there's a Bill of Rights enshrined in the law, as it's enshrined in the United States law, and it's enshrined in law for the Russian people too, in all their courts, the Russian people would thrive too, much more so than they are right now. So I think that might be the way to get together and bring back the union of the Western and Eastern empires, and with Trump being the head of the Western Empire and Putin being the head of the Eastern Empire. So there you go. Over and out.